We are thrilled to be here in Boston. We are thrilled to have this inaugural symposium, a public symposium today and a science symposium yesterday, to really start research at our ME-CFS collaboration for MGH and our Harvard-affiliated hospitals. We are really excited to do this here on the East Coast. As you know, we've been doing research a lot on the West Coast and with some other collaborators, and we are really thrilled that you're here to hear what we're doing here, hear what the ideas are, hear what our plans are, and really set this in motion. Finding Clarity is the name that was given to this particular symposium, and I think this is really clear in what you're going to hear and what you're going to see, and we're trying to find answers, we're trying to find a cure, we're trying to find a diagnostic test, and we want to find some treatments to help patients. So just to give you a picture of who we are, I'm Linda Tannenbaum. I'm the CEO of Open Medicine Foundation, and I started this in 2012 for the reason that we need a diagnostic and a treatment and a cure. And so we have, since that time, raised over $18 million for research, and as you know, it's not that much money for research, but it is a lot more than it has been in the past, and there's been a lot of research happening really all over the world in the last few years, and we're part of it as well, and we want to scale this up as much as possible. These are very big slides. We're the largest nonprofit funding research right now, really all over the world for ME-CFS research. And we're very excited that we have people in over 100 different countries that are part of our database that are really watching us. And as you know, these illnesses are all over the world. And so we take our science communications and we have it translated in 15 different languages. And we're based in Los Angeles, and we have about 170 volunteers all over the world. So we're international, and we're very excited that we work with people all over the world. And we have since developed a scientific advisory board, a very remarkable board of scientists led by our director, Ron Davis from Stanford University, that you'll hear from in a few minutes. And we have some of our researchers that are here today that are on our board as well. And we really work with the board to decide with us what type of research should be funded, what is the most important research to move this forward to find a treatment to help patients get their lives back. We're thrilled. Some of these people you know, some of these people are really top in their field of all the different fields, and we're very excited and have a really brilliant team that's working on this amongst all the other collaborators that we're working with. This is our scientific advisory board itself, but we work with many, many researchers, up and over about 80 now. They're within both of our meetings that we have. So currently we're funding 3 collaborative research centers, ME-CFS collaborative research centers. We've been funding work at Stanford since 2014 under the direction of Dr. Ron Davis. And now we are launching, and our inaugural launch for the ME-CFS Collaborative Research Center here at Harvard and MGH and Harvard-affiliated hospitals. And we have co-directors, Dr. Ron Thompkins and Dr. Wenzong Zhao. And we are excited that we opened up Uppsala University in Sweden under Dr. Jonas Bergquist. We had some phenomenal speakers yesterday, so I thought you might want to just see who spoke yesterday. And more importantly than that, you can see this is a real collaboration. Collaboration amongst universities, amongst countries, amongst institutions. We are working with the people that are really top in their field that can push this forward. People in the field of ME-CFS, people outside the field of ME-CFS. So we can bring people together and bring in new ideas and really move this forward and really brainstorm. So we had a phenomenal meeting yesterday, all day talking and sharing ideas and collaborating, and we're really excited that you'll hear some of those speakers today. So I want to thank you all for coming, and I'd like to introduce Chris Armstrong. Chris Armstrong joined us from Melbourne, Australia, and we brought him over as our OMF Science Liaison. And now that we are really branched out all over the world with not only collecting data, but having collaborations and researchers, we wanted to bring in Chris to kind of bring it all together, to communicate to everybody of what we're doing and kind of pull it all together and help me focus our efforts on raising funds and meeting with patients, and he's really to be able to look over all the science that we're doing and keep everybody informed really all over the world. So he's been in the ME/CFS research world for over a decade now, and we're really excited. He's going to be working at Stanford very soon as a visiting scholar at Stanford, doing research and continuing with us as an OMF science liaison. So I'd like to introduce Chris Armstrong, who's going to introduce the speakers today.
Yeah, I'm absolutely honoured to be here, to be working with OMF, but also to be here introducing these esteemed and fantastic researchers that you're going to be here today. Yesterday we had a number of talks at the closed scientific meeting, and I think you're going to be in for a real treat today with the sort of information and the type of projects that are going to be underway. So first up we have Ron Thompkins, or Dr. Ron Thompkins. He's a Sumner M. Redstone Professor at Surgery at Harvard Medical School and Massachusetts General Hospital. He's a surgeon and a scientist, and he's also trained at MIT. He's well known for his coordination of large-scale projects, especially the GLUE grant, which was looking into inflammation metabolism into trauma events. And so he is obviously the leader, our co-leader of this Harvard initiative that we're presenting today. And so I'd like to welcome up Ron to give us a talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. I'm going to briefly introduce our organization. It's called a collaborative, and what I'm going to share with you is both the realities as well as a strong vision statement. So please don't take what I present as current fact, but share with me the vision of what we could become. So the very nice thing is that the Harvard faculty, there's about 12,000 of them and 30 institutions. So among so many doctors and scientists, there's plenty of room to have very key individuals who have not only contributed to ME/CFS in the past, but also can become engaged in research in the many special facilities that exist within the Harvard institutions. So we're both recognizing individuals who have been extremely strong contributors in ME/CFS, as well as coercing very bright, talented individuals into the ME/CFS research world. And so part of this is a vision statement, and part of it reflects reality. These are the institutions that I would call the founding members of our collaboration. As we're ultimately funded, we can become a center. It's a concept at Harvard that really is related to a lot of money. So part of our overall activity is to become reality and well-funded among the many institutions and centers at Harvard that are well-funded. You see there's quite a generous contribution from MGH, and you're going to hear from them today. Donna and Amel are going to be sharing. Michael is also speaking about imaging, as well as Winsong. Also, from the Brigham and Women's Hospital, two very outstanding collaborators, Tony Komarov and David Systrom. Janet Mullington runs our sleep center. She's quite well funded and experienced in the area of sleep. And at Stanford University, I need to recognize that we have had more than 2 decades of totally successful collaboration with my colleague, Ron Davis, and we look forward to continuing that very fruitful relationship in this collaboration. We've recruited a number from the United Kingdom. It's quite important. I'll mention a little bit about our muscle studies, and I'm delighted. Janet Lord is the chief of chairperson for immunology at the University of Birmingham, very interested in innate immunity, which is a huge issue in ME/CFS. I'm delighted to have Philip Atherton and Paul Greenough. They're here in the audience today. They're from Nottingham, and they're in physiology and metabolism and are classically trained and are fabulous collaborators that will help us to better understand metabolism in ME/CFS. And there's two individuals that I've gotten to know since I've been involved in ME/CFS that are just wonderful collaborators from Cornell. That's Maureen Hansen, you'll hear from her a little bit later, and Jonas Bergquist, who had to return this afternoon to Sweden. And Jonas has one of the funded OMF centers. And lastly, we've had a very long-standing, very fruitful relationship with Pacific Northwest National Labs, who are some of the most outstanding centers in metabolism and proteomics. So it's an interesting crowd. I have a list here of a number of the thrust areas of interest for us, some of which are underway and some of which are concepts that we are developing. The top two are about, we have learned so much about skeletal muscle after injury. We have a tremendous depth of understanding, and we would like to turn that into knowledge in ME/CFS. The post-exertional malaise component of ME/CFS is so dramatic, and we know so much about skeletal muscle, it just seems that there would be a tremendous opportunity to better understand the etiology, and it might lead us to biomarkers and to potential therapies for post-exertional malaise. At the University of Birmingham and Nottingham, the skeletal muscle and how it changes with age, how it differs between the sexes, and how lifestyle and other activities influence skeletal muscle and its function. They are true experts, and they provide excellent comparisons for us to better understand skeletal muscle disease and ME/CFS. Our colleagues over at the Brigham who evaluate invasive CPET, cardiopulmonary exercise testing, Dr. David Systrom, has had a repository of tissues, just plasma and many other things, and we intend to study those in a very systematic, high-throughput fashion to learn a great deal of how exercises influences ME/CFS. Neural inflammation, you'll hear a little bit later from Michael Van Elzeker, very important component and aspect of ME/CFS. I won't say more, but he's at MGH, and we consider that very important. At Harvard, I know it's not well appreciated, but there are so many wonderful clinicians who fully understand and have treated ME/CFS for 30 or 40 years. It's not advertised broadly, but there is tremendous interest at Harvard if we were to develop an ME/CFS clinical center of excellence. Now, this is one of those vision statements. Please don't think that we have done that yet. But the concept is to provide all the medical services as well as support services that are so necessary to properly care for a patient with ME/CFS. And that's a vision statement that we would love to develop, and we're actively seeking support for that. We don't have time to talk about it, and Dr. System's not going to be talking about it today, but there's a very specific finding with ICPET, this invasive cardiopulmonary exercise testing, that is very specific to ME/CFS. And we intend to explore that further as to why it happens, and are there biomarkers related to it, and are there specific therapies that we can predict would be of benefit. This is particularly for those who have a tremendous amount of POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And we're very hopeful with that, and it actually is very straightforward to do. Other things is using computerized adaptive testing for understanding the current symptoms. There are technologies that are very well developed that will simply make these questionnaires make a lot more sense, and in comparison over time, it will give us a great deal of understanding. Of course, we're an aggregate of scientists and doctors. So public education and awareness, not only for the MECFS community, but as well as the professionals. We had a meeting with the Institute of Health Professions at MGH. Those are allied health professionals of over 700 in January, and it was a wonderful opportunity to share with them and explain to them what MECFS is. And I think we had a very positive outcome from that meeting, and we intend to do that sort of thing on a regular basis. There's presentations and educational events, and we're certainly going to push that, and we are almost completely developed a website that will also be helpful in this regard. And lastly, this is really a vision goal. We would love, Mass General and the Brigham is quite good at organizing multi-center trials and other clinical trials to understand drugs and their effects, and we would love to develop a rigorous clinical trial infrastructure so that drugs can be developed and understood and even FDA approved as a result. But that is a very expensive endeavor, but is certainly within our vision. So I'm going to stop here because I just want to leave you with the concept that we're on the job and we intend to provide a resource for the community that will really move things forward to everyone's benefit. There's a tremendous interest on the part of the doctors and the scientists at Mass General and the other Harvard-affiliated hospitals, the BI and Brigham and Women's, as well as our close collaborators from the United Kingdom, Sweden, and across the country. So with that commitment, I'll close, and you'll hear more from me later. Thank you.